cheerleader in high school?
No, I was not a cheerleader in high school. They wouldn't let me in because I wouldn't shave my legs.
Oh, this is the point where I have to say, I think you all owe a round of applause to Eric Schumacher. Okay. Wow, 3 mics. All right, well, once again, welcome to the 40th Tuscon, which is not precisely true, but it's close enough for folk music. I've got to say that I think it's absolutely great that so many of you are here tonight instead of being out at the opening night of Thor, the Dark World. I know, you're going later to the late showing. Good, good, good. Let's see. Okay, as we get started here, and I've already received my marching orders from the programming people, I can only talk a certain amount. And then I have to stop, even if it's in the middle of a sentence. But it is a tough house tonight. Well, Scott and Joe and the rest of the people in charge have informed me that unlike previous years, it's required that there be more educational material. None of this entertaining crap. No more. But educational, informative, the sort of stuff that will make you all better citizens, informed human beings. So, you guys asked for it? You got it. Let's talk about this previous week and what went on in the world. A lot of terrible things went on in this world, but some of you may have followed Prince Harry's christening, where, no, that wasn't a terrible thing. But I think it's interesting that at Prince Harry's christening, he said his first words, which were, "There can be only one." Now, there are some holidays that I hope a number of you observed while you were building up to the climactic point in your weekly life, which is Tuscon. For example, Monday, and this is all true, Monday was Death to America Day in Iran, and possibly Mississippi. What it is, it's a commemoration in Iran of the overrunning of the American embassy and the taking of our diplomatic staff as hostages. Well, a spokesman for the Iranian government said, and this was broadcast on BBC, that in truth, it's not Death to America Day. That's an idiom. In truth, it's more Down with America Day. So, you know that. Tuesday was the 43rd anniversary of Don't Blow Up a Dead Whale on an Oregon beach. Many of you will recall in 1970 when a very large whale was beached on the coast of Oregon, and there was some question. Now, it's hard to believe that this was 43 years ago, and many people at this point think that this is all urban myth. It's not. You can see the videos, and they're real. They are not faked, in which the Oregon authorities piled an awful lot of explosive underneath this whale which had begun to decompose. And everybody crowded around at what they thought was a relatively safe distance. And then the whale was detonated. And a lot of the film that comes later, because this was before cell phone cameras and so forth and so on, but a lot of people were still there with 30 millimeters and so forth and so on. And you see, if you watch the films, all of these lenses splattered with pink, goopy tissue. And, this is what most people are familiar with this event. But I talked to a friend of mine who's the curator and collections manager at the Natural History Museum at South Dakota School of Mines. She was there on that fateful day, and she says that sometimes to get the best idea about what was happening generally was to check the microcosm. And what she reported to me was there was a somewhat horny park ranger. No, you don't know what I'm going to say. Whatever you're thinking is far worse than what I could possibly say about this park ranger. Anyway, the park ranger was really impressed with two young women who were marine biologists. And they were doing some sort of a survey of dead whales. And they wanted to get some samples of DNA. Now, as I say, this is more than 4 decades ago, so DNA technology wasn't at its best yet. And so the ranger volunteered to get them a good sample of the DNA. So what did he do? He got a chainsaw. Now, at this stage of the whale's decomposition, this whale was very bloated with gas. But the ranger, undeterred, simply bored into the cetacean with his chainsaw. He ended up doubled up on the beach, retching. As far as I know, there are no videotapes of this. No film. Okay, otherwise, quickly, what we're celebrating today. Today, the 8th of November, is the birthday of Bram Stoker. Who, in his own way, is responsible for a lot of really bad television. And I'm not very going to make a list. But anyway, Bram was born in 1847. But what I think is the truly amazing coincidence here, is it a coincidence? Or is it something else? But November the 8th, 1431, is the birthday of Vlad the Impaler. That's Vlad III the Impaler, otherwise known as Vlad Tepes, who is basically the inner core of the whole Dracula myth. So, you guys wanted education, so you got it. Afterwards, before you adjourn to get ready for Radio Free Alpha Booth, there will be a spot quiz. And you're going to have to you'll have to know a lot about history. Maybe the final thing for this week is there are those of us from out of state, like your writer just of honor, like me, who are here, like the producer, director, writer of Alpha Booth. But there's somebody else you might not be thinking of, and that's Homan al-Turki. Now, who is Homan al-Turki? You are doubtless asking yourself. Well, just like me, he came down here from Denver to visit Tucson for a while. Now, Mr. al-Turki is a Saudi national who actually lived in Aurora, which is the easternmost huge suburb of Denver. And he's been in the news a lot lately, at least in Denver, because he was accused of sexually abusing and effectively keeping in functional slavery his housekeeper. He was charged, he was convicted, and among other things, he was put on probation and ordered to take sexual sensitivity courses. Now remember, this is a Saudi national, and he asked as a special favor that he be taken off of house arrest and sent back to Saudi Arabia, where he would take sexual sensitivity training in his own country. Now, the decision to allow him to go back to his country was made by Tom Clements, the former corrections director in Colorado, who, a week after he turned Mr. Al-Turki down, was shot to death on the front porch of his home. Now, the killer escaped from Colorado, made it to Texas, and died in a shootout with Texas authorities. But there's still some question with law authorities whether Mr. Al-Turki might have had something to do with the death of Colorado's corrections officer. Anyway, it gets more and more complicated, and finally what was decided was it was dangerous for him to be in Colorado, so he's been sent down to the federal prison here in Tucson. So, good for you. You've got a celebrity in your midst. Okay. Now the truth. Now the Tucson Committee decided this year, and they were encouraged by Weston Oaks, who I saw here. I think, yes, you were hiding. Well, Weston, twice now, when circumstances forbade me coming to Tucson, Weston has graciously stepped in. Well, apparently the committee decided to try a number of new tacks this year. And at first, they weren't going to re-invite me to be a Toastmaster. On the other hand, they weren't going to invite Weston to fill in for me. No! They decided to invite a real celebrity. They were going to invite Rob Ford, the mayor of Toronto. However, you know, Mr. Ford, Mayor Ford, has been having certain problems with accusations of being a crackhead. And indeed, after trying to dodge the issue quite a lot, this week, Rob Ford, in a press conference, said, well, maybe I did smoke a little crack, but it was in a drunken stupor. Now, this certainly sounds like a set of qualifications for the mayor of the largest and most sophisticated city in Canada. So anyway, the popular mayor of Toronto is not going to be your Toastmaster this year. And some of you didn't seem to recognize his name when I first mentioned it. If you haven't kept up with the story, I'll quote Martin Short, who said that Rob Lowe looks a lot like the love child of Chris Farley and Chaz Bono, which doesn't say much for Farley and Bono. Okay, so then Sue Thing and the rest of the committee boosted the effort to secure a superstar guest of honor. And no, I'm sorry, Julia, you weren't the first choice. The first choice was Sue getting in touch with David Scow in LA, because that's where superstars come from. And David secured the services of Selena Gomez. Unfortunately, they discovered that Selena Gomez wouldn't be allowed across the Arizona border. She doesn't have the proper green card. So, the next guest of honor candidate that David was able to get insurance from was Miley Cyrus. However, it turns out that twerking is illegal in Arizona. So, So the twerking marathon set for tomorrow night's masquerade is no longer in play. However, because individuals do have human rights in Arizona, those who wish to twerk can twerk, but the masquerade heads want me to inform you that the rules specify that your tongue cannot protrude more than 5 inches from your mouth. Okay, I think that's all the news that you need for right now. So, I'm just going to add a few notes to what Eric said about a number of the guests we've got here tonight. Now, again, I didn't see where she was because I was sitting down earlier. Where's Juliet? Juliet Blackwell. Right back there. Okay. Hi. Well, you know, you all should be reading your program book and checking the internet to find out about who our various guests are and why you're notable and really why they're here. Juliet, of course, is extremely popular and best-selling writer, but more than that, what is she? Now I ask that because a friend of mine today was talking about Juliet, and this is somebody who really likes her, thinks she's been here since Tuesday, and she's been doing well here in the world of Arizona. But my friend said, well, you know, she's not exactly a science fiction writer, and she's not a horror writer. I'm not sure I'd even call her a fantasy writer. What is she? A paranormal mystery writer? Or, in another area of her writing, sort of the fantastical go-to woman for the convention version of this old house. Which is a really tortured image. But anyway, I think that as with so much about this field, we need to forget the narrow definitions. Think outside the envelope. And as far as Juliet's concerned, if she walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, writes like a duck, then I think she's a fantasist. And we all appreciate that. Read her books and enjoy them. Our artist guest of honor has already been introduced, and what is she? I like this kind of cooperative effort on the part of people to rat out their friends and others. Well, Bird is one of Tucson's own. What? Okay, so I'm wrong on that count. I'm wrong on so many counts. Okay, I think I'd be accurate in saying you can see her work in the art show. I think you can see some of her work in the program book. And I've certainly seen a lot of her work online. And one thing you'd say about Jessica Steinberg is that
Weinberg.
Are they?
Weinberg.
Oh, Weinberg. There's an old joke about that in vaudeville, but never mind. Anyway, Jessica, as we fondly call her, is clearly a member of the Dragons, and you should learn more about Dragon Scale, her field guide to all manner of size of dragons. And I have to say that of all of her work I've seen, I really like the piece that has the fierce-looking dragon crawling, dripping out of a jar of organic peanut butter. This gives messages on so many levels. But The big thing that that particular piece reminded me of was the WorldCon in Los Angeles in, I think, 1971. I can't remember the name of the gentleman who did this at the masquerade, but his costume, much like the dragon, he covered himself completely in crunchy peanut butter. And the stage lights were very hot that night. It was much like seeing the whale on the beach in Oregon. The only difference was, instead of exploding, he was expelled forever from the masquerade by the convention. And the hotel was not happy because of the footprints in crunchy peanut butter. Anyway, okay, and then John Allen Simon, producer, director, writer of the adaptation of Philip K. Dick's novel, Radio Free Album Youth, which you will see in this very room, assuming all the projection equipment works, and we believe it will. And that's at 9 o'clock tonight. Now, if any of you are thinking that because this is a Philip K. Dick novel and movie, that you're going to see a clone of Blade Runner, no. And that's not an insult, because the truth is that Philip K. Dick rarely, if ever, repeated himself. And this is yet another unique translation of Philip K. Dick. And I'll tell you, I know that this Hollywood luminary is the real deal because of the fact that among his other works in film, he's the creator of, and you can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I believe you are the creator of a documentary about Wicker Man, the original Wicker Man, not the peculiar reinvention.
No, I just appear in it because I rescued it and released it in the United States. That was the first, and cut it back to its original form.
Right.
But yes, the Wicker Man.
Yeah, nothing to do with Nicolas Cage. So we owe you a lot for that. The movie with Edward Woodward and a substantial role for Christopher Lee. And I still remember Nicolas Cage in the Woodward role, the cop on Summer Isle off the coast. And when he thinks he's capturing one of the young women who has done something bad, and she has been riding her bike, and he says in his best Nicolas Cage officious tones, "All right, ma'am, walk away from the bicycle." Anyway, and surprisingly, Wicker Man circles around tonight because the Burning Man, Wicker Man On Fire Festival for the University of Arizona tonight has been canceled. No big fire. And fortunately, it's not like the University of Texas, where they have the huge fire homecoming, and a couple of years ago, they managed to kill people with that enterprise. Tonight, it's just...
A&M, not UP. A&M, not UP. Don't mix that up, Brown Texas.
Yeah. Well, Cocoa Horns. Anyway, so anyway, in any case, there is no bonfire tonight because of construction maintenance on Old Main. Okay, I knew I should have edited all this before I came up here. It's not going as well as I'd anticipated. Was it ever determined if Jeff Knox was here?
Yes, he is.
There he is. Very good.
You got a question for me?
Jeff Knox. Yes. One of our science guests, who is one of the hosts of Meteorite Man on Discovery Channel, Science Channel, and other outlets. He's won books and awards. He also is the real deal because I think we're all pretty sure that someday he will guest star on The Big Bang Theory. And of course, the folks that you saw here playing before the food was served, Hawkinson who so far have been the most entertaining part of the evening. And tomorrow night, they will be doing a concert here. And, but why aren't you wearing brown coats?
They're hanging out. Later.
Okay. Also, I want to mention tonight, rice and haggis. Rice and haggis. Okay, who are, I only met them today. They are the most charming pair at this convention, I have to say. And they know more about anime and anime voicing than certainly
Somebody you look like your mom or your dad.
people like Wolf Forest. Well, I'm sorry, but can you imagine Wolf conducting a 4-hour anime voice acting workshop? I'd pay money to see that. But Wolf will not be doing that. Haggis and Rice will be, and that will be tomorrow afternoon at sometime. What time is it?
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock, thank you. Okay. Okay, the programming people are starting to sweat as time goes on. So, I think, okay, we've met the committee, so you know who's doing a little heavy lifting around here. And, let's see, a few other things. People did say they wanted to get some news, so before the closing announcements, let me just mention that next Tuesday, India will launch its first Mars probe, which is good. Shows the diversity in real science. Yes. It says, get off the stage now. Well, too bad. I've still got another 30 minutes of time. There's a quick mention. The thing about the Indian Mars probe is that it gives direction for, say, the U.S. Deep Space program, which needs all the assistance we can get. With budget cuts, we can do what India is doing, which is they have sent along these great IMAX cameras on the probe, which are going to be used as a source for Bollywood movies. There's a whole new Bollywood science fiction program starting. All singing, all dancing. It'll be like a version of Gravity. You can hum and tap your foot to. Now, not all news is upbeat. I merely mention this because the headline was too good. This was more news from last week. In Colorado again, something I've been following. Hit and run driver looks at hurt cyclist, drives off. This was around Colorado State University. Young woman hit a cyclist. She stopped to check whether he was all right. He wasn't. He's now in serious condition in the hospital. They had to take out a part of his skull to let his brain expand. And, you know, this was certainly the most hilarious story since several years ago when another woman driver hit a homeless guy and jammed him into her windshield and then drove him home to her house and left him in the garage for a while. Okay, so something to cheer you up then. About 80 miles east of Tulsa is Concord, a small Oklahoma town, which has a plague of red worms that are growing up in this filtering system of this small town. And so people are seeing all these red worms coming out of their faucets. Now, it's only protein, for crying out loud. The town is looking for the I'd be remiss if I didn't mention UFOs, because I know that Arizona's seen UFOs. Well, there's an update on the Roswell story. The physician who told of handling Roswell debris has died in Helena, Montana. His name was Dr. Jesse Marcel Jr., who said he handled debris from the 1947 crash of an unidentified flying object near Roswell, New Mexico. He died at 76. And Marcel said he was 10 when his father, an Air Force intelligence officer, brought home debris from the wreckage found in July 1947. And said the boy needed to look at it because it was something he would never see again. Now, another true story. One of the many losses this field has had in the last year, along with Jack Vance and Richard Matheson, was Frederick Cole. And some of you have heard this already, but again, it's absolutely true, because Fred never joked about it. Fred and Jack Williamson were both in their wartime service, World War II service, were in meteorology. And they happened to be in the Roswell area when the crash happened. And they, not knowing that a huge myth was going to grow up, wandered out to the crash site. They too handled the debris. They saw what was there. And interestingly, unless of course they were brainwashed by the OSS or something like that, they could both testify, and unfortunately both are deceased now, but they could testify that yes, the Roswell debris was part of a weather balloon, or system of weather balloons, that basically it was an intelligence device that was supposed to be floating over the then Soviet Union in the early days of the Cold War. So, I know, truth is sometimes disappointing. Wait to read this. Dead crickets cause a stink in Waco. That's depressing. That's disgusting. Oh, this is not really disgusting, but it's certainly a contender for the Darwin Awards. Again, from my hometown, Denver, William Pascoe, 46, allegedly handed Thomas Robert Padilla, 36, a fully loaded revolver to play Russian roulette. You gotta wonder, don't you? Fully loaded. Mr. Pascoe was arrested on suspicion of second-degree murder. Pascoe knew the revolver was fully loaded when he gave it to Padilla and made no attempt to stop the game. Some people are for sports. And, finally, who would want to hear a story about Trader Joe recalling peanut butter? But again, this is kind of that synchronicity. We talked about peanut butter earlier with the dragon. Now Trader Joe is recalling it. No connection. In Hong Kong, a new computerized arm wrestling machine has broken the arms of at least 5 teenagers in video parlors in the last 2 weeks. Hong Kong's Consumer Council warned Thursday that Arm Champs 2, how many here played Arm Champs 2? You want to explain? Okay. It's a silver-plated mechanized arm various strengths. The magazine, or the machine does caution would-be strongmen to play at your own risk. But the signs are in English, and most video parlor patrons are young Chinese. Okay, wind up the news here with good news, because you deserve good news. One is, people wondered what we were going to do with Predator drones here in the U.S. now that we've come up with an FAA code for behavior if you want to fly a drone in the U.S. And Predator drones, if you hadn't heard, were used this summer in Yosemite for that fire. And all we did was cover an awful lot of ground and sent back an awful lot of information, which helped provoke the fire. And then, a story that ties into the convention registration desk out in the hotel. You've seen the little duckies on display? Well, you should know that the Toy Hall of Fame this week inducted both chess, now the Pac-Man video game, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and the scooter. Some of the toys that have already made it into the National Hall of Fame for toys include the jump rope, alphabet blocks, playing cards, the cardboard box, and last but not least, the stick. All right. Now then, before we relinquish the room to the astronauts, the road crew, the grips, who are going to put up the screen and the projection equipment, here are some announcements that I've been asked to make. Is Kurt Stubbs in the room? Right in the back. Right there by in the food court almost. Longtime Tucson fan Kurt Stubbs will lead a discussion of science fiction poetry at the Tucson Botanical Gardens on December 14th at 10 a.m. And here's the best part, besides the natural attraction of Kurt talking about poetry. This will take place in the otherworldly Venus Flytrap Garden. The Botanical Gardens are located at 2150 North Alvernon Way. Okay. In case you haven't checked the art show program, you should know that there will, and this is in all caps, underlined 3 times, be Regency Dancing, hosted by Marty and Alice Masolia. I know we're here. This will be tomorrow night at 7 p.m. And that's tomorrow night at 7 p.m. right here. And you should also know that this leads into a segue for the dealer's room. See the dealer's room. The dealer's room is full of displays of things for sale by impoverished, sad, they'll go to bed hungry tonight if you don't buy something from them, hucksters, or dealers, or whatever you want to call them. And I particularly want to mention Marty's table, because he told me this afternoon that he's put together this magnificent display of books by all the Tucson guests of honor. However, I have to tell you that you'll only be able to get some of them signed. Many of them are not here at Tucson this year. But, so, there's that going on. I've been asked to announce, let's see, certainly Eric showed very well for the short film screenings on Sunday afternoon. You mentioned Bedlam Bars and the concert tomorrow night. Open gaming with Ken St. Andre, dungeon mastering the new deluxe tunnels and trolls for you gamers. And of course, art, video, anime, and dealer's room, artist alley, the Suite, and land gaming are in various places around the hotel. The Suite, the Heligon on the other side of the pool in the back. And those of you who don't know where it is, I can't give you any better instructions, except you just walk away from the lobby, through the hotel, past the pool, look for light and smell of really good food. And if you're lucky, it's the Suite.
Room 126.
126? Okay, simple, 126. And here's a note. Those of you who don't know what's going on at Tucson, for whatever reason, whether it's artificial substances or you haven't been to the convention before, at 9 o'clock, up the stairs in the lobby, there will be an introduction to Tucson Town. And again, this is an event that will test you afterwards. Make sure you know where you're going, you know what your resources are, and especially it will give you information on how to have fun. Okay. The masquerade, again, will be tomorrow night. And I'd like to acknowledge the following businesses and individuals who have graciously provided prizes for the masquerade costume contest. And they thought they were going to fool me with this, but I know it's pronounced Antigone books. Tucson's 100% solar-powered independent bookstore celebrating their 40th anniversary. They've got a $25 gift certificate for tomorrow, and you can locate them online at antigonebooks.com. Also, Silver Sea Jewelry. Custom design jewelry, which will be announced here at the convention, and they can be found on Facebook, facebook.com/Silver Jewelry. The Grand Cinemas. Patty Thomas, Operations Manager, Ken Edwards, Managing Partner, Tucson's only locally owned discount theater. You can win a couple of VIP passes and 2 small popcorns. Movievalue.com. And a new, I believe this is a new sponsor for this enterprise, the Tucson Zombie Walk. You'll win a gift bag with Zombie Walk merchandise, a t-shirt, buttons, and patches. Then there's Scott and Jackie Leonard with a little apple doll, Mentis. You won't find that anywhere on the prize list except here. And also Rebecca and Eric Hayes, a $30 gift certificate to Joanne Fabrics. Help you make your next costume. And additional acknowledgments to Michelle Wang and Crunchyroll.com for providing prizes for the Tucson Anime Room. And iRapture for providing web hosting and other services. Hold air through that door out there, so you might as well keep yourself warm by giving plaudits to others. And then thanks to Caleb Badger for website maintenance and design. A hell of a job. If you look at the website, you know. Then the Independent Film Association of Southern California, IFASA, for equipment. And the Tucson Space Society for support of our science programming. Lee Ledberger for his help in providing swag, in this case free movie posters and raffle prizes for various bars at the movies, which will be about 11 o'clock, 11:15 on Sunday morning. Everybody Leslie will get something there. Plus, everybody will get something out of the freebies tables in the hallways of the hotel. And a special thank you to Leslie Hawes for donating 10 pieces of original fantasy artwork to the silent auction. Leslie is no longer producing new fantasy art, so this may be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to bid on her original and hand-colored pieces. So, thank you, Leslie. And let's see. That same thing I mention every year, which is, we have a cash bar here. There's a lovely lady standing behind it, going to sleep, leaning it back against the corner, because none of you is drinking like a fish. So, when you're in the bar or at the bar, at events such as this, don't forget to tip whoever is serving you. Now, you can tip as your conscience sees fit and recommends. But just remember, it's a karmic process. And if you don't tip the servers in the restaurant, or the bartenders, or the women who clean your rooms each day, and on average it should be at least $5 a day for cleaning up. Remember, if you don't support people who work hard to help you and please you, then you will go to hell. So let's see, you know about the masquerade, you did with your programs. Also, a special reminder to come to Gary Hayes Memorial tomorrow at 3 o'clock. It will be a good thing to come to and to participate in. And also, thanks to Daniel Arthur, not only for having a wonderful program book, but used, 0.5 typeface to put in a list of everybody who left us in commercial arts over the last year. Also, instead of larger type, a list of people that we miss still, from Tuscon, committees, the guests, everybody who's participated who is no longer here. And just a reminder again, I'm not going to get maudlin, but remember that all these people continue to live as long as at least one person in this room keeps them in their memory. And finally, don't forget to spay or neuter your friends. Now, you're welcome to have fun and enjoy your Tuscon. And I think there's still some food trays back there you can lick out, those of you who are desperate. But remember that all these people continue to live as long as at least one person in this room keeps them in their memory. And finally, don't forget to spay or neuter your friends. Now, you're welcome to have fun and enjoy your Tuscon. And I think there's still some food trays back there you can lick out. Those are people who are desperate. And remember to come back here at 9 o'clock for the week.
Ladies, Ladies and gents, can I get your attention for just a second before you leave? Good evening, I'm Jeff Notkin, I'm one of your guests. Oh, wow, thank you. You're too sweet. Well, some of you know me as the host of Meteorite Ben, some of you know me as the host of STEM Journals. What few of you know is that I'm associate producer on Radio Free Albemarle, the latest film to be made from a Philip Dick science fiction book. Seated over there, oh, right here, is my friend John Allen Simon, who's the writer and director of this film, who very kindly flew in from LA for this screening. Those of you who are here at 9 o'clock will see the Arizona premiere of Radio Free Albemarle, which was made from one of Phil's last books. And it may be your only chance to see it on the screen in Tucson. So come back, don't miss it. You're in for a real treat. Would you like to say a word?
Hi, I walked here this morning from Los Angeles. And it's really fun to be here. We began this journey with this movie, showing it as a work in progress at the Sedona Festival. And this is going to be our last festival-like screening before we release the film. It's from one of Philip K. Dick's, really an autobiographical novel. It's science fiction. He made himself a character. It's about his actual experiences with extraterrestrial intelligence. Those of you who are fans of Boardwalk Empire, Shea Wiggum, who plays the brother of Steve Buscemi in it, plays Philip K. Dick in the movie. And we have Alanis Morissette in the movie. Music is by Robin Hitchcock. And there'll be a Q&A afterwards, and we'll talk about Philip K. Dick. I hope you'll all come back here at 9, or if you just want to stay and drink in your seats, that's okay. I'm hanging around and look forward to meeting some of you or all of you, and hope you'll like the movie. So thanks for coming out.
I switched to a close-up because I couldn't see, but
Good.
at least you have some variety.
It'll be something. Alan Williams is editing stuff, so
Yeah.
it's all up to him. You know, I got little bits and pieces of stuff.
Yeah. I'm sure who is ever editing, they'll probably just cut between shots.
So, what's next, you know?
Have you been to this thing before? I like these settings.
Pigeons centered on the shoulders.
While you were there.
I had Cheyenne. There's not power going to that thing, so. Just helping. So she found a place to put my batteries. I don't know what else is here. We can check out the schedule. I think we got a way.
plug them in behind the registration desk.
Yeah.
We got plenty of space back there.
Okay, so what do we do? You just lead me to that afterwards.
Let's just go rebuild all this stuff.
Glad to see you. Thank you, guys.
Let's just take everything. You can be first AC for the day. You know what it means. It's your fancy. What? Ice is film shaming. I used to refer to some anime, but then they said that was sexist because they were female. But they didn't actually see it. And it's still not Willie Nelson. I swear to Christ, Willie Nelson. That dude. Not really moving. What's more important? Audio or the film? Software.
Yeah, dude, right? XLR? Do you have an XLR? Yeah, because that's way quality.
Sorry, James. It's gonna be dark soon. You have to work outside.
But you have to work outside.
Sorry.
I feel like I shouldn't just be taking your stuff without you like seeing where I'm going per se. Yeah, so I don't know, I feel like you guys are following me.
Right. I'm waiting for Brandon.
Hey, you're going high. There goes.
We don't want to film the actual screening anyway, so it's going to be like, we'll do a preamble, film, stop.
Okay, then I'll
Go
just
do
run
other
away.
stuff, and then, and then we'll just come back for the Q&A. I'm going to find out exactly how long the film is, so we'll have an idea of when we need to be back here.
Just let me know.
He does not like working.
Onward.
Zarek, have you guys aiming for the What is Suscon panel? Okay, yeah.
When's that open?
What?
What time is that open?
9 o'clock up in panel room 1 again. Cool.
No, you're spot on. Spot on. He doesn't have the braids. I'm sorry about that.
We're going this way. Oh, the lantern? It's this way. I did.
I'll be right back. So sorry. Carrying a heavy camera.
It's not that heavy. No, it's DSLR on the tripod. It's not that
Dogs there are.
bad. Dogs everywhere. There's a big German Shepherd over there. In the corner.
Yeah, there's that giant. Oh, the green. There's one. Full church. Maybe I'll take that one.
You got your pants too big.
Oh. Okay. I didn't realize there were like rooms down there.
Yeah.
LIN Gaming.
That's our little spot. What's up, man? Orpheus, what are you playing?
I'm here to make people's lives difficult. Shield God.